Hi folks, this is All the Fruit, and today I'm visiting Serre de la Madone Botanic Garden in Menton on the Côte d'Azur in France. I've been coming to Menton for several years now. It's my favorite city in France because it's also the most subtropical place in all of continental France. You want to find something more subtropical, you have to go to the islands, for example Martinique, Guadeloupe and so on. The Côte d'Azur in itself, it's the most subtropical place in all of France, but Menton, the last town before the Italian border, has a much more favorable climate than the rest. Slightly cooler summers, but much milder winters. That's why I like to come here, but I haven't seen this botanic garden yet for different reasons. Basically because I read bad reviews. It's overpriced, far away, dry and parched and ugly and overhyped, not well maintained, only dried up stuff, cracked water basins and so on. And I must say, nope, it's a nice garden. I like it here. I mean, if you are looking specifically for world-class fruit collections, you better go to the Botanic Garden of Val-Ramée, which is here in Menton, or the Palais de Crénolé, which is less than 2 kilometers away from Serre de la Madone, and which houses the citrus collection of France. But this garden is also quite beautiful. Maybe not so much for the fruit hunter, but for the general botanist, it's really nice. Yeah, I will probably not visit it every year because, as I said, it doesn't have really great fruit collections, but as an all-around botanic garden, it's really nice. Look at those Himalayan palms. I've rarely seen such tall ones, but here you either have to get tall or to perish. Well, it's like one of those typical botanic gardens on the Côte d'Azur. There was some rich person who built a big mansion and had a beautiful botanic garden made around its mansion. Yeah, most of the botanic parks and gardens here were created like this. Even the fancy botanic gardens like Palais de Crénolé was a palace with a garden. Val-Ramée was also a house with like a big mansion with a garden. Hanbury on the other side of the border, the same. And there are still hundreds of such houses with beautiful big gardens which are private on the Côte d'Azur. Maybe thousands of such houses. This year we are lucky is now public and you can actually visit it. The lower parts are kind of shady and nice and cool in this hot Côte d'Azur August. I really appreciate this. Of course, like pretty much every place around here, the area was an ancient olive garden. Here you can see the stump of an old olive. Here another one, just grown quite tall. It's being pruned, but being pruned to a very tall shape. Over there you can see a really ancient one. Look at this beauty. The original stem has almost died. There are still a couple branches coming out of the original stem. The original stem is probably over 500 years old, but here a young stem has sprouted up right next to it. This is 99% sure from the same plant. Yeah. Beautiful ancient olives and a nice collection of beautiful old trees, a lot of young ones underneath. You could say that the garden is too stuffed, that for example this little maple is growing here in too much shade, but like if you are coming from, let's say, Britain and Germany and are used to mostly cool and moist summers, you appreciate big lawns and open spaces in a park or garden. There are lawns and open spaces here, but Most of it are like small terraces with stony steps. More or less the traditional way how this area was used when it was olive plantation, small terraces, stony steps. A lot of shade and half shade. A mixture of evergreen and summergreen trees. Here a bunia pine, which produces giant edible cones with edible seeds. A mixture of evergreen and summergreen plants, so in winter, when the sun is weaker, you get more sun, but in summer you get more shade. Here an edible Fuchsia magellanica. They have a couple fruit trees here. Somewhere in this area they have a couple exotic strawberry trees. They also have strawberry guavas, K-apple, avocados. Despite the fact that the Botanic Garden is situated on one single slope, it is a bit of a maze. Look at this, a cotoneaster, but a giant cotoneaster shrub, like well over 15 meters tall. It's a bit of a maze. You get a plan when you visit the garden. Yeah. They've put it in plastic so they can reuse it instead of giving each visitor a plant and the visitors throw them away. Really nice. The driveway to the villa has never been asphalted. That's also a nice detail I totally appreciate. Yeah, despite everything just being one single slope, the entrance with the gardener's house on the lower part, the mansion at the upper end of the visitable area, the whole upper half of the garden is not accessible. Despite this, it looks kind of like a mess. Not like a mess, like a maze. Because of those countless little terraces and steps and stairs. Here another old olive tree. It's quite beautiful, I like it. There are several water basins in the garden. Right now I didn't spot a single one. The name of the garden, Serre della Madone, means greenhouses of the Madonna. Well, there are two small greenhouses here, but they totally don't dominate the area. I don't know, were they among the first greenhouses around here that they had to mention them specifically? Nice cycas collection. Nice pergolas. Beautiful carob trees. This is quite a young one, maybe 40-50 centimeters thick. There are some much older ones around here. Young avocado tree, edible topocho bananas up there. Nice strawberry tree, probably the Canary Island strawberry tree. Up there are the strawberry guava and the K-apple. Trying to find you some of the greenhouses and the basins. Look at that, some nice and so that pineapple relatives, bromelias, or those are maybe not bromelias. Yeah, bromelias. I wonder if they have bromelia penguin here, an edible relative of pineapple. Well, definitely not very wheelchair friendly, but I totally appreciate that they kind of left the traditional little stairs and terraces. Here a magnificent old carob tree. Behind this thing with the big leaves is a silverberry. This is the only piece of lawn I managed to find here. As far as I know, the garden was developed by some English people. Of course, there has to be lawn, but it totally doesn't dominate. It's a little hidden piece of lawn. I wonder what they did here, maybe playing cricket or whatever. Kurajong trees. Everything about this tree is edible, including the seeds, but the fruits will try to kill you. This is an asparagus relative from the Canary Islands, which makes tall vines, really beautiful. Here are the edible fruits of the carob. Here a loquat tree, really beautiful. Well, how often did I say it's beautiful? Yeah, for me personally, it's not so interesting because it hasn't got a big fruit collection. There are fruit trees here and there, but compared to Valrameo, Hanbury or Carnolet, the fruit tree collection is really not the main purpose of the garden. Here we finally have some of the basins and the greenhouses. Very small old greenhouses, really not dominating the area, but adding a lot to the charm. An ancient stone pine with edible seeds. Up there is the mansion. You can see that the upper drier part is a lot sunnier. I guess you can hang out here in summer when it's not so hot. A staghorn sumac with fruits which are a popular spice. Up there, papyrus, an edible grass, which you can also use to make paper. And the funny thing is they made basically everything out of it in ancient Egypt. It was the only plant they had in abundance. And then, I guess at some time during the small ice age, in the 17th and 18th century, kind of became extinct in Egypt. That must have crashed their whole economy, because imagine all the fertile land which is not used for agriculture is covered with one plant you use for food, for building, for clothing, for shoes, for paper, and then it becomes extinct. Apparently they even some sort of edible seeds on it sometimes. But yeah, here is the papyrus. Behind it the lotus, symbol of purity in Buddhism. And also you see those big fruits. They are tasty big edible seeds in those. Really yummy. Here another Fuchsia magellanica. I think somewhere behind this greenhouse was the citrus collection. Magnificent trees here around the house. A lot of different species. Yeah, a sycamore garden with this box elder around it, kind of a typical traditional strict geometrical French garden. There are flowers that grow here even at the hottest time of the year, in August. Let's go and visit the topocho bananas. The topocho is the main edible banana that grows at the Côte d'Azur, but it only grows in the western part, like starting from Nizza and the rest. It's either too cold for it or it's just not so popular. Edible fruits, they will grow, probably they will not grow so much bigger here, because here it's quite dry and also quite shady. This thing likes full sun and a lot of water, but it's producing at least. Here the citrus collection. However, I don't know how much of collection it is. I cannot see the fruits right now, but the leaves of most of those citruses look the same. This here looks different, but all the other ones look more or less the same, so it might not be so much of a collection as just a citrus orchard. Up there, the leaves of those in the background also look different. Well, the biggest French citrus collections are less than 2 kilometers away here in Palais de Carnolet, the biggest state-owned citrus collections. You can go and look them up there. Here it's a nice addition that they have a citrus garden. Nice kaki tree growing in the middle of the citrus garden. Yeah, beautiful botanic garden. Yeah. should have come here earlier. But I always thought, nah, hard to reach, overpriced, neglected. Nope. Maybe if someone saw it in summer, it's not as lush as it would be in winter. Also, it's not as lush because a part of it is designed to be shadier. But yeah, it was beautifully restored. I totally approve of it. Here some prickly pears, Opuntia ficus indica, Opuntia vulgaris, I think. This should be some sort of barrel cactus. Different aloes and agaves. More lotus. Here some capers. The spice you buy, the pickled spice, are those buds, which you should harvest around this time of the year. Opuntia vulgaris with ripe fruits here. Yeah, if you are in Menton, definitely visit Serre della Madone Botanic Garden. I don't think you are going to regret it. Let's see, there is something interesting about the greenhouse. Everything I see in here, I've seen outdoors around here. Mickey Mouse plant, I saw it growing outdoors in Valramé. This Vitaceae here, I forgot the name, but it is growing outdoors many places around here. Creeping fig, totally growing outdoors here. All the vines look familiar. I've also seen them outdoors. There is even ivy growing indoors here. Acrocanthera oppositifolia, totally growing outdoors here. Subtropical hibiscus is growing outdoors. The helicornia also growing outdoors. Monstera also growing outdoors. I don't know if those trees were originally growing in greenhouses here before they acclimatized to the climate of the Côte d'Azur. I'm sure in the cold winter months it can get quite cold. Here frost is almost unheard of, but it can get quite cold. I'm sure in the cold winter months it's nice to sit here in the greenhouse and surrounded by green stuff. But if you can tell me why you think this stuff is growing inside, they could have put some really tropical things in there which would suffer outside. Tell me what you think, folks. Tell me what you think about this botanic garden and its greenhouses. Apart from that, stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the beautiful and incredibly fruit-rich Côte d'Azur. Of course, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.